So the first thing I need for the puree is 2 cups of basil leaves. What I'm going to do is blanch them in hot water, and what that does is really set the green color, so it's fresh green basil in the potato basil puree. So I need a big pot of boiling salted water. What I'm going to do is use the same water for the basil as I am for the potatoes. So 2 cups of fresh basil leaves, right into the water. And it's going to sit there for about 15 seconds, just until it's blanched. And then into ice water, which is called shocking, and it really sets the green color. Okay, right into the ice water, which is why you want to have the ice water ready before you start. Okay, next, the potatoes. So I've got 2 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. They're peeled in maybe about 1.5-inch dice. And those are going to cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. And while they cook, little home movies. I'm going to show you where I got the inspiration for these potatoes. It's the Bistro de Puree. It's near the Seine, and it's the real thing. Old school Parisian bistro with incredible charm. If you order veal chops in a place like this, you are definitely having potato puree alongside. So, drain potatoes, put the lid on. So the next thing I'm going to do is heat up some half and half. I've got 1 cup just to a simmer. I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. It's really important not to let the cream boil, though, because Parmesan will end up a mess. Okay, next I'm going to puree the basil in the food processor. Just strain it really well. Ooh, that's cold. So I'm just going to put this in, and then I'm going to put the cream in and puree them together. It's hot, but not boiling. So this is the mixture that's going to go into the potatoes. So just give it a whir. So now I'm going to show you how I make mashed potatoes, actually in the pot. And I'm just going to break them up a little bit and then turn it on. And it makes the most fabulous mashed potatoes. Light and fluffy. Okay, so these are perfectly broken up. So just very slowly add enough basil cream so the mashed potatoes are the right texture. I always save a little bit for later, just in case they get too thick. Okay, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper. Just mix that all in. Ooh, does this smell good? It's a tough job I have. Oh, it's smooth and creamy. The basil is, it's just delicious. You can really taste the Parmesan. This potato basil puree smells so amazing. I'm just gonna give it a whisk. It's just the right texture. You can really smell the Parmesan and all the basil. Wow. A little sprinkling of Parmesan on top. Could it look any better? Salmon cured with dill and Pernod. It's basically like gravlax, but with the volume turned up. I'm going to serve it paper thin on pumpernickel bread with the mustard sauce. It's delicious. So I'm going to start with 3 pounds of salmon, and it's a fillet. I'm going to cut it in half. It's beautiful salmon. All the bones have been taken out, but it's still on the skin. So I'm going to take half of it and put it in a big dish. Just like that. Now I'm going to make a salt and spice and sugar cure to put on top. So first I need 2 tablespoons of whole peppercorns. I'm going to put it in this mortar and pestle and just grind it up. 1 tablespoon of whole fennel seeds. Just think how good that is. Lots of flavor. And just grind it up like this. If you have a spice grinder, you can use that too. But you want it really coarse. And if you do this, instead of buying them already ground, you really bring out the oils and the flavor in it. If it's already ground, it's not as fresh. Just keep grinding it until all the pepper and the fennel is broken up. So what I'm doing is I'm making a spice mixture, and that's going to mix with the salmon, and the juices in the salmon are going to mix with the salt and make a cure. And it sits for 2 days. And it kind of pickles the salmon. It's just delicious. Okay, That's the spice mixture. Now I need half a cup of salt. I know it's a lot of salt, but we're curing it. And half a cup of sugar. Just gonna mix that together. So that's the salt and spice mixture. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I have lots of fresh dill, and it's really important for this. I'm gonna take a big bunch of fresh dill and just put it right on top of the salmon. And that flavor, that kind of like dill flavor, it's so unique, so Scandinavian, is gonna get into the salmon. Okay, next is the spice mixture. Just all of it right on top. I know it seems like a lot of salt and a lot of sugar, but that's how you cure salmon. It sounds like the cure for the common cold, but it's salmon. Okay, and then some Pernod, which is very anise flavor, 2 tablespoons. And that's gonna help dissolve the salt and the sugar and get right into the salmon. So next, I'm gonna take the other half of the salmon and put it right on top. Look how great that looks, I love it. And then I'm gonna take a dish, I wanna weight it down. I'm gonna take a dish that can sit right on top. A little precarious, but it sits right on top. And then I'm gonna weight it. Go to the pantry and get 2 cans, preferably crushed tomatoes. No, it doesn't matter what kind of cans, any kind of cans. And just weight that on top. And that's gonna sit in the fridge for 2 days. And every 12 hours, I'm gonna flip the whole salmon thing over, and then it'll marinate the other side, and then flip it back again. Okay, let's see if I can get it into the fridge without dropping it. Whoa. Be right back. Happily, I have one that I did 2 days ago. So I'll show you how it looks. 2 cans. It's amazing how it's transformed by marinating it. So these are the 2 pieces of salmon. Remember, I flip them every 12 hours. Take one off, put it right on the board. The salt and the sugar and the spices and fennel all got into the salmon. I'm just gonna take the dill off and put it back in the marinade. So it's flavored it, but you don't wanna slice the salmon with the dill. And then I'm gonna take any pieces of pepper and fennel left over off. When I first bought my specialty food store, Barefoot Contessa, the first thing I had to learn was how to slice salmon. And I was really nervous because it's not so easy. But I'll show you, you have a very thin knife and it's very flexible. And you just go right along the top. You wanna make sure it's really sharp. First slices are just to get it started. When I first learned, the woman who taught me actually said, slice on one side and then the other side until you get really comfortable, which is really good advice. Takes a little practice, but you can get it. You don't want it thicker in some places and thinner in others. You want it sort of paper thin all the way through. And this is actually called a smoked salmon knife. So if you really want to treat yourself, it's not a bad idea because you really can't do this with a chef's knife. It'd be impossible. Like trying to do surgery with a screwdriver. You just always need the right utensils for the right job. So you really want to do it not just paper thin, but also evenly. And it takes some practice, but you can do it. See how thin this is? It's really paper thin. The good thing is, if you make more than you need in one time, you just put it back in the marinade and it'll stay for a couple of days. It turns out after 20 years, I still remember how to do this. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. Once you've mastered it, you never forget how to do it. Okay, that's the salmon sliced, but there's more. Now I'm gonna turn the salmon with dill and Pernod into canapes. So I'm gonna take a piece of salmon and just put it on the pumpernickel bread. And I kind of do it like in a ribbon, so it has a little body to it, as opposed to just putting it on flat. And pumpernickel bread is really dark and sort of just a delicious counterpoint to the salmon. Okay, that's one. This is gonna make 6 canapes. And 2. And a little bit, you wanna be sure to cover the whole bread. And 3. A little piece. You can cut the pieces so that they fit perfectly. This is why it's really important that it's paper thin, so you can just do a little bit sort of like ripple of it. Okay, that's the salmon. Next is the sauce. This is a mustard sauce, and it's actually got 4 different kinds of mustard in it. It's very mustardy. Let me tell you how I made it. I just added 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard to a bowl, along with a tablespoon of honey mustard, a teaspoon of whole grain mustard, and a half a teaspoon of ground mustard. That's a lot of mustard. Next, I added 1½ tablespoons of sugar, 2½ tablespoons of good white wine vinegar, whisked everything together. Then slowly, I poured in 2½ tablespoons of good olive oil that I had combined with 1½ tablespoons of grapeseed oil, whisking constantly until the sauce was emulsified. Then I mixed in 2 tablespoons of minced fresh dill and a half a teaspoon of kosher salt. How easy is that? And this is how I like to put the sauce on the canapé, just to drizzle it with a spoon, just like that. So you see the salmon, and you see the sauce, and you see the pumpernickel. You don't want one to cover the other one up. All the salmon and mustard and pumpernickel and dill. I'm just gonna cut them in half. I just like to do it diagonally. Looks nice. It's the only thing I like diagonally. Okay, little chopped up dill. Just so you know there's dill in it. Really just a rough chop. Okay, a little bit of dill, and onto the platter. So that's salmon cured with dill and Pernod. You make it ahead, you serve it at room temperature, and you don't even have to turn on the stove. How great is that? So I'm gonna make capellini with tomatoes and basil. It's very good, and it's so fast. So the first thing I'm gonna start with is olive oil. I'm gonna use a lot of olive oil, but it's actually gonna end up being tossed with the pasta, about a half a cup. I used to make this recipe by marinating the tomatoes for about 6 hours, and then one day I thought, I think I can just saute them. It'll take 3 minutes. And you know what? It worked. So I'm just gonna let that heat up. Gotta have lots of garlic, 2 tablespoons of garlic. It's about 6 cloves. Just give them a big rough chop. You won't believe how fast this recipe is. I'm using capellini because it takes literally 2 minutes to cook in a pot of boiling water. It takes more time to boil the water than it does to make the whole dish. I came up with this recipe because I have so many cherry tomatoes in the garden. And this is a good one. It uses 4 pints of cherry tomatoes. Okay, that's a lot of garlic. That's at least 2 tablespoons, if not more, right into the oil. Just cook it for about 30 seconds. Now I need lots of fresh thyme. I need about 2 teaspoons. I'm just gonna take it right off the stems, right into the pot while the garlic cooks. I do whole borders of thyme, so I always have fresh thyme. One of my favorites. Garlic smells great. Okay, 2 teaspoons of fresh thyme leaves, 2 teaspoons of salt, one teaspoon of pepper. I want this really well seasoned. Give it a shake. Some red pepper flakes, just a big pinch. Give it a little heat. And 4 pints of cherry tomatoes. And these are just gonna cook together for about 5 to 7 minutes while I cook the pasta. Okay, next, lots of fresh herbs. So I'm gonna use maybe, I don't know, a big bunch of basil. About 18 leaves, I'm gonna julienne them. Tomatoes, basil, always go together. They don't have to be perfectly julienne. That's the thing about this pasta. It's a really simple dish, but each ingredient is just wonderful, and they all go together. Big rough chop of parsley, just a couple of tablespoons. Give it a nice fresh herb flavor. And the tomatoes look like they're perfectly cooked. Just off the heat, I'm gonna turn it off so that the herbs stay really bright green. Just gonna toss them on. Just give them a little stir so the heat just wilts them, but it doesn't change the flavor. And this Parmesan's gonna have a nice salty taste. This is really fast Parmesan cheese, right into the food processor. Lid on. Perfect. Okay, I think the pasta should be done. Just drain the pasta. Ooh, I'm just gonna put it right back in with the tomato so it really absorbs all that wonderful oil and flavors and seasoning and right back in. Now, is that one of the fastest dishes you've ever seen? Just give it a big toss. You wanna not crush the tomatoes. It needs one more thing to make it perfect, Parmesan cheese. 1.5 cups of Parmesan cheese. All I needed was a few things from the pantry, and lunch is served. I started with the rub. I put 1.5 tablespoons of chopped fresh rosemary leaves with 1.5 tablespoons of chopped garlic into the bowl of a food processor. Next, a tablespoon of dried oregano, a tablespoon of kosher salt, 1.5 teaspoons of ground black pepper, and processed it until it was finely minced. Then I poured in 2 tablespoons of olive oil and processed it until it became a coarse paste. Next, I put 2 Frenched racks of lamb on a sheet pan with the rib ends pointing down and spread the herb paste evenly on both racks. Covered them, refrigerated them for 6 hours. Then I roasted them at 450 degrees for exactly 25 minutes for medium rare. Next, I'm going to make easy tzatziki to go with the lamb. And I have a few tricks for making the tzatziki so you can make it and serve it right away. First, I'll halve the cucumber, use a spoon to scrape the seeds out, then grate it on a box grater. It's a hothouse cucumber, so it's less watery than the regular ones. I'll put it in a clean kitchen towel, roll it up, squeeze it over the sink to get rid of as much liquid as possible, and put the cucumber into a bowl. Now, instead of using regular yogurt and draining it overnight, I'll add 2 7-ounce containers of Greek yogurt. It's already been drained, so you don't need to wait. Next, I'll add 1/4 cup of sour cream, 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, a tablespoon of white wine vinegar, a tablespoon of minced fresh dill, 1.5 teaspoons of minced garlic, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and just mix it all together. All I have to do is just pour it into a bowl. I just love the tanginess and the freshness. Okay, that's all ready to serve. So the lamb is rested, 15 minutes. I'll show you how I carve it. So just a regular chef's knife is fine. I'm just gonna cut these into chops. You can do double chops or you can do single ones. I actually tend to do both, so somebody can choose what they'd like. This lamb is Frenched. All that means is the butcher's taken any extra meat off the bone, so it's nice and neat. Looks a little fancier. So I'll do one of these racks double ribs, and I'll do one as single ribs. This smells so good. Really smell the rosemary. It's gonna be so good with the Parmesan zucchini. Okay, that's the second rack. Maybe a little rosemary on the platter so people know that there's rosemary. Amazing rack of lamb with tzatziki. Isn't it fabulous what you can do from a few ingredients from the farm stand? I'd say your guests are going to be very happy. My friends are coming for breakfast. I love to do breakfast because it's not the traditional Saturday night dinner, which is such a major deal. Most of the things I've done the night before, which is great, but the main centerpiece of the meal is a potato basil frittata. So in the pan here, I've cooked about 2 cups of boiling potatoes. They're the firm, round ones rather than the baking potatoes. And I peeled them and just cooked them in a little butter for about 10 or 15 minutes until they're really just tender and browned. And they should be perfect right now. Now I'm going to make the basis of it, which is this gorgeous omelet all mixed together. I'm going to start with, just like an omelet, 8 eggs. And I actually find that you can use whatever's left over from dinner. If you have chicken and broccoli the night before, it makes a delicious frittata. Counting. One more. Let me just scramble them a little bit. And then we're going to add lots of great flavorings. About 15 ounces of ricotta, which is 1 whole small container. And then 3/4 of a pound of Gruyere cheese. Gruyère's it's wonderful, like Swiss cheese. I know, it's eggs, cheese, and butter. It's delicious. How bad can that be? And then a little bit of butter, the last major food group. I'm not suggesting you eat this every day, but once in a while for a treat, it's wonderful. And then basil. I think basil is just such a great flavoring. So I'm just take the leaves off the stems and chop them very roughly. I love the smell of fresh basil. And then the last two ingredients are 1/3 cup of flour to give it a little substance, and 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder to make it rise. So I'm going to stir this all together. Make sure it's nicely blended. Cheeses and the basil and eggs. And that's it. I'm just going to pour this right over the potato. And then this whole thing goes in the oven. So instead of making individual omelets for everybody, I have one big omelet and we're all going to share it. So it goes in the oven at 350 degrees for about 50 minutes to an hour, and it's going to be puffed and golden and delicious. Oh, how gorgeous is that? Whew. And just in case you're all still hungry, I have a potato basil frittata.
What's in this, Ina?
It's potatoes and basil
Still
and Gruyere and ricotta, and it's beautiful. Devin, ricotta. There are a lot of voices coming from over here. It's hot, hot, hot.
Oh, fantastic. Are there leeks in it?
Thank you. I think that one's. This is my idea of a great way to start the day. So I'm going to make herb baked eggs for Jeffrey and me. Watch how easy this is. It's great. So I'm going to mix together 1/4 teaspoon of fresh thyme right in this bowl. 1/4 teaspoon of fresh rosemary. There's all kinds of French herbs. You want to use it judiciously because it's such a strong herb. And be sure that you chop it really well. Into the bowl. 1/4 teaspoon of fresh garlic. This has all kinds of Provençal flavors in it. One tablespoon of chopped parsley. You can either use flat leaf or curly parsley. I kind of like a rough chop. It doesn't have to be too finely chopped. One tablespoon of parsley, and 1 tablespoon of Parmesan cheese. Just be sure to use good fresh Parmesan cheese. Okay, so these are the gratin dishes that the eggs are going to go into. And I'm going to crack 3 eggs into each bowl. You want to do it really carefully so you don't break the yolks. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of butter, put it in the gratin dish, a little bit of cream, just drop, oops. So I'm going to put these on a tray, and I made some little pieces of toast I'm going to serve with the eggs. I'm going to put these in the broiler for about 3 minutes till the dish gets really hot and the butter is nice and bubbly. And then when the eggs hit, they'll start to cook immediately. So the cream and butter for the eggs, probably done. Perfect. It's nice and hot and bubbly. I'm going to carefully slide the eggs into each one so don't break the yolks. They'll just start to cook immediately. So the dish is really hot. And then I'm going to put on my mixture of thyme, garlic, rosemary, parsley, and Parmesan. It's all very Provençal. Salt and pepper. Into the broiler for about 5 minutes until it's hot and bubbly and delicious. Okay, I'm just going to pull it all together. Eggs are perfect. The whites are firm and the yolks are still soft. Balance, very French. likes it. So, you look very comfortable sitting there.
Oh, that looks great.
Like my French-inspired flowers.
What do you got there?
I have baked eggs with Provençal
Isn't
herb.
that lovely?
And then later, the way the French have a salad after the meal, I have an endive salad with blue cheese and pears.
Oh. That is just delicious.
So my assistant barber's son, Jason, is getting married, and she's giving the rehearsal dinner while she was having a complete meltdown. So I said, okay, deep breath, we're gonna do this together. You're gonna go out and buy some really wonderful things in town that you can serve as a buffet, and you and I are gonna make some delicious things to go with it. So first, I'm making tarragon potato salad, and she's out shopping. So first, I'm just gonna test them, make sure they're really done. And I just use a cake tester, a skewer. Okay, no resistance, exactly right. I'm gonna drain them. I'll show you what I do. I have a little secret about this. So this is 2 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. I boil these for about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the size of the potatoes. And what I'm gonna do is I drain them and then take a nice clean kitchen towel, gotta be clean, and put it right over the top, and just let them steam for about 10 minutes, and the steam gets in the potatoes and they end up perfectly cooked. So in the meantime, I'm gonna make the dressing. Most potato salads are so boring. They're like potatoes and mayonnaise with maybe a little salt if you're lucky. I just think they can be really flavorful. I add lots of fresh herbs like tarragon and dill. I start with 1 cup of mayonnaise. You don't have to make your own. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I like a little bit of acid in things like this. It just gives it an edge that really gives it lots of flavor. This is a small lemon, so it should be perfect. 2 tablespoons of tarragon vinegar. If you don't have tarragon vinegar, any good white wine vinegar is fine. Don't go out and buy a whole bottle of tarragon vinegar for 2 tablespoons. 2 teaspoons of salt. Remember, this is the dressing, and potatoes are fairly bland, so you want them to have lots of flavor. 1 teaspoon of pepper, and just give it a whisk together. And then I'm gonna add tarragon, fresh dill, red onion, scallions. It's gonna have really good flavor. So these potatoes are just cool enough to handle. I actually love to put the dressing on a potato salad while the potatoes are still warm because it really absorbs better. 2 pounds of potatoes. All done. Okay, into a bowl. And remember, you want to do this while they're still a little bit warm. This isn't the time to go answer the phone. Okay, enough dressing just to moisten it. Give it a big stir. And see, when you toss it, it breaks up a little bit. So you don't want to make them too small to start with. Okay, next, 3 tablespoons of chopped scallions, just right into the salad. 3 tablespoons of minced onions. And then some fresh herbs to give it a really fresh flavor. So I'm going to use dill and tarragon, 2 tablespoons of each one. Just give the dill a nice rough chop. I love the smell of it. Okay, 2 tablespoons of fresh tarragon. And then I'm going to put the rest of the dressing in. I think it really needs it. It's kind of my habit to put half the dressing in and then half later when I'm done. You just never know how much it's going to absorb, and I hate when it's just soggy. So give it a nice stir. The nice thing about this potato salad is it has to sit for about 30 minutes. All the flavors meld together. They get into the potatoes. So I'm just going to let this sit here, and then Barbara and I are going to have a tasting. See if it's good. Several years ago, I discovered that roasting shrimp for shrimp cocktail was so much better than boiling it. And I thought, well, if I can roast it for shrimp cocktail, maybe I can do a dinner like that. So I came up with garlic and herb roast shrimp. So first I need some butter. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. This is really the sauce. And then, if I'm gonna call it garlic and herb roast shrimp, it's gonna have a lot of garlic. It's got 2 tablespoons of garlic in it. I don't wanna cook this too long because I don't want the garlic to overcook. 2 teaspoons of rosemary, which is unusual for shrimp, but it's really good. A little pinch of hot pepper flakes. This is a great weeknight dinner because it doesn't take long to put together. 1 teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of pepper. And I'm just gonna cook that for literally a minute, just until you can smell the fragrance of the garlic. It's fantastic. So that's the sauce. I'm gonna turn off the heat. This dish has lots of lemon in it. I've got lemon zest, lemon juice and sliced lemons. So first I'm gonna zest a whole lemon right into the sauce. I love the way the heat really brings out the lemon flavor. That's the zest. So next is the shrimp, and I've got really big shrimp. They're 10 to 12 count, which means that there are 10 to 12 shrimp in each pound. They're huge. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour this entire sauce over the shrimp. This is a great dish because not only am I gonna bake it in this pan, but in fact, I'm gonna serve it in the pan too. I'm gonna get all of the herbs and the garlic and everything right into this pan. And then to add to the lemon flavor, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this lemon that I've just zested and slice it and put the slices in between the shrimp, and it'll all bake together. And I serve it with crusty bread and maybe some kind of a roasted vegetable. So what I did was I arranged the shrimp in a concentric circle with their little tails up. And I've got shrimp that have the tails still on, just because I think it looks better. So this is gonna roast 400 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes. That's pretty fast, right? And I just happen to have one that's coming right out of the oven now. How beautiful is that? I'm just gonna give it another little squeeze of lemon juice. I love when the warm shrimp absorbs the lemon. And I would say dinner doesn't get any faster than that. I have some butter in the pan, and I have lots of chunky, flavorful things in the stuffing. I've got 2 Granny Smith apples chopped up, 2 stalks of celery, and 2 onions. I'm just gonna saute them until they're really tender. I'll stir them around. In the past, when I used to make a whole turkey, I would put the stuffing inside, and I had to cook the turkey forever in order for the stuffing to cook. And so, of course, the turkey was dry. Not a good idea. So I found if I made the stuffing separately, I had really moist turkey and a big pan of stuffing that was moist and delicious and crispy and crusty on the outside. Now that's good stuffing. Okay, while that cooks, I'm going to put some fresh parsley in. Okay, about 2 tablespoons. Right in with the apples and onions. Tablespoon of salt. Seems like a lot, but wait till you see it's a lot of stuffing. Teaspoon of pepper. Just toss it all together. I'm going to cook this for about 10 minutes until the apples are tender and delicious, and then I'm going to mix it with breadcrumbs. You can certainly make bread stuffing with fresh bread, but I like to take a French boule, one of those round breads, cut it in big 1-inch cubes, and then toast it for about 7 minutes, 300 degrees. And what it does is it crisps it and it dries it out a little bit. And then it'll absorb all the gorgeous flavors of the apples and the onions. It can be very good bread stuffing. I can smell the apples and onions. They're perfectly cooked. Apples are really tender. Wonderful. I'm gonna put these into the breadcrumbs, and then I'm gonna cook the sausage. Delicious apple and sausage stuffing. So for the sausage, I've tried a few different things. I first started with chicken sausage and basil. Sounds good, right? So boring. It was just terrible. And then I started with spicy sausage, like Italian sausage. It was too spicy. So I finally figured out that combination of spicy and sweet Italian sausage was the perfect blend. So that's what I've got, 3/4 pound combined. It's really up to you whether you want more spicy or more sweet. But it's really good, the sausage and the breadcrumbs and the apples and onions. It's just a great combination. Just mash it in the pan so the sausage is really cooked and it's broken up. So this is going to cook for about 10 minutes, and then it all goes together with the breadcrumb stuffing. Okay, while that cooks, a few more ingredients. I'm going to put a cup of cranberries in. It is Thanksgiving. Cranberries are appropriate. And just to make sure it's really moist, a cup of good chicken stock. And the sausage. Perfect. Spicy, sweet. Just dump it right in. Does that look delicious? Big spoon. Just toss it all together. Put it in a pan. Yikes. Cook the stuffing for 30 minutes until it's browned and crusty on the top and hot and delicious inside. And I would say that looks like Thanksgiving. I'm going to zest 1 lemon Whenever I do lemon juice, I always try and use the zest because it's got all the oils in it. It's so much more flavorful. Okay, next, 3/4 of a cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Right into the bowl. Half a cup of olive oil. That keeps the loins of pork really moist. So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. I really want to mince this finely so it doesn't burn when I cook the loin of pork. Right into the marinade. 1.5 tablespoons of minced fresh rosemary. Okay, 1.5 tablespoons. Perfect. And then thyme. I think the rosemary and thyme together are really great. Very Mediterranean. So I need 1 tablespoon of minced fresh thyme leaves. So that's 1 tablespoon of thyme. I need 2 teaspoons of salt. And the last thing is 2 teaspoons of good mustard. I like Dijon mustard. It has a nice sharpness to it. So I'm just going to give it a little stir. This is really just like making a vinaigrette. It just has more lemon juice in it. So these are the pork loins. I've got 3. They're about 1 pound each. It's a really inexpensive cut of meat. I think it's fantastic. Each one serves 2 people. After it's cooked, I'm just going to slice it like that. So to marinate it, I'm going to put it right in this plastic bag. That's 1. This way, all you have to do is pour the marinade in over, and then the marinade gets all around the meat and it really gets into it. Okay, just pour it in carefully. Oh, got it. Seal the bag. Well, it's not elegant, but it really works. So I'm going to marinate it for about 3 hours. It's even better overnight. So for the pork loins, a few tablespoons of olive oil in a pan. I'm going to do this actually the way restaurants cook meat, which is to sear it in a pan and then bake it in the oven. So just lift it right out of the marinade, put it right into the pan. You don't want to put the marinade into the pan. You want them as dry as you can so that they really sear. I'm just going to sear it for about 2 minutes on each side so it just browns. Then I'm going to put it in the oven and cook it until it's just barely pink inside. Okay, these look gorgeous and brown right now, so I'm just going to give them a turn. Ah, beautiful. Okay, 2 minutes on that side, and then into the oven in a hot oven, and they'll be perfect. It's been resting for 10 minutes, and it should be nice and juicy and tender. How gorgeous does that look? Wow. So I'm just going to put them on the board. I'll show you how I cut them. So I'm just going to do slices like that. Very simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. That's perfectly done. Just nice and pink inside.